Everybody, welcome back to another Beard Guys video. Today we're going to have a little bit of a look at the AMX 1357, which has just gone on sale on World of Tanks console. Now, I don't normally do videos where I dive too much into stats and numbers and that kind of thing, but this was a tank that kind of interested me because I'm such a fan of light tanks and because it's kind of similar to the AMX Chaffee in certain ways. So, kind of for my own benefit, I wanted to do a bit of a stats comparison and just figure out where these tanks were different. And I thought that would also be useful maybe for some of you guys if I shared it with you. So I'm going to run through some of that for a few minutes. If you don't want to hear any of that, skip on. There's some awesome gameplay. I had a great mastery game last night. You won't be disappointed. So skip on and check that out if you want. But I'm just going to go through the stats real quick. So the 1357 is one of the heavy metal heroes tanks that's on sale. It's a tier 7 French light tank. I've compared it to the stats today for both the AMX Chaffee and also the Lycan. The AMX Chaffee is kind of a similar thing, but it's a tier 6. But the Lycan is a little bit similar, but tier 7. But I didn't think it's too unfair to compare the Chaffee because it has essentially the same matchmaking. So all three of the Lycan, the 1357 and the AMX Chaffee play up to tier 10. Being a tier 6, the AMX Chaffee is the cheapest one of the bunch, with a base price in the Tankopedia of 3,800 gold. The Lycan at tier 7 comes in at 4,200 gold in the Tankopedia, and the 1357, for some reason, even though it's the same tier as the Lycan, is 6,700 gold. So it is 2,500 gold more base price than a Lycan, which is the same tier. So a little bit strange, that one. They both come with perm camo, thanks to the HMH for the 1357, and the Lycan is the black Halloween tank. So the 1357 is certainly a lot higher priced than the Lycan, and I can't really see much to justify that in the stats. That said, it's certainly not a bad tank, and it's been really interesting to dive through some of this information. So hit point wise, the 1357 comes out on top. That has 890 hit points compared with 840 on the Lycan, or a lowly 600 on the AMX Chaffee. Maneuverability was an interesting one for me. It felt a little sluggish when I was driving my 1357 around, and I think the reason for that is, even though it's got a higher top speed than the AMX Chaffee, it has a pretty poor hull traverse and power to weight ratio. Its hull traverse is 48 compared with 56 on both the Lycan and the AMX Chaffee, so the traverse is a little bit sluggish. The turret traverse is kind of similar to the other two, and the power to weight ratio is only about 17 rather than up to 28 on the AMX Chaffee, so big difference there. But it does technically have a slightly higher top speed of 61 compared to 56 on the AMX Chaffee. Terrain resistance wise, the 1357 is again slightly on top, but they're all pretty similar. And if we jump over to the armor, the 1357 actually has an extra 25mm of frontal hull armor compared to the others. It has 50mm, the others just have 25, so that might help you a little bit. It might help a straight HE shell not pen you when it might have done on the others. The gun itself is probably the most interesting thing about the tank. The 1357 has an 8-round clip autoloader. It has the lowest clip potential of all three tanks, doing 720 average damage per clip. The Lycan does the most with 900, and the AMX Chaffee fits in the middle with 810. It's got 6 degrees of gun depression, which is about the same as the others. They're 7 and 6 for the Lycan and Chaffee respectively. And it carries a reload of 16 seconds, which is the same as the Chaffee. The real difference though is, because it's a 55mm gun, it has a much lower damage, but it also has a much higher rate of fire. So there's 8 shots you can fire off with about a second or so in between each shot. It's got a rate of fire of 20 rounds a minute compared to only 11.25 on the Lycan or 12.86 on the AMX Chaffee, so much faster to empty those shots. It does have an aim time of 2.3 seconds, which is the same as the Chaffee, so unless you're up close, you're not really going to be expecting to hit many or all of those shots, because you are not going to aim in before you're ready to fire the next shot. The accuracy of 0.37 is comparable across all three tanks, and standard damage of the shells on the 1357 is 90 damage compared with 150 on the Lycan, 135 on the Chaffee, and the pen for the 1357 is 143. It's about the same as the AMX Chaffee, but the Lycan pips it with 175, so significantly better pen on the Lycan. Worth noting that you don't get any HE shells on the 1357. I don't think that's really an issue. I never run any on auto-loading light tanks. I don't think it's worth it. I think it's too risky because of the low ammo counts. So not really an issue. You just get APCR and AP. But one of the other things I found really interesting was just the damage potential. I worked out how much potential average damage you could do if you hit and penned all of your shots in a game with this tank. And the number it came out with was really surprising. The 5,040 is the maximum average damage you could do if you penned every single shot that you have of AP with this tank, which was surprising. The Lycan could do 9,000 potentially, and I've seen replays of the Lycan doing 5,000 plus damage. So yeah, having seen replays of the Lycan do more damage in a game than the 1357 could theoretically even do, well, on average, to be fair, is pretty staggering. The AMX Chaffee can do 6,480 if you're interested, so a little bit more. So it's certainly not a tank for dishing out huge amounts of damage. Certainly you're going to be able to have some decent games damage-wise in it, but it's certainly a lot more focused on, I think, on scouting and just doing little bits. It's not quite the tiny assault tank that I consider the Lycan to be. Another nice advantage of the 1357 though is that it has excellent camo. It's got better camo than both. It's got a concealment rating when stationary and on the move, since it's a light tank, of 0.33, and it feels like a bit of an arbitrary number, but for comparison, the other two tanks in this comparison are 0.28 for both of them, so it's significantly higher than both of those. And I couldn't find any other light tanks in my garage with a 0.33 or higher rating. The next higher ones I could find were some of the gods of camo. The Hellcat had 0.37, the Scorpion with a C had 0.40, and the E25 has 0.44. So it's just behind those kings of camo, but it was higher than almost all of the light tanks I could see. Well, all of them, in fact. View range, they're all pretty similar. 390 for the 1357 and the Chaffee, and 400 for the Lycan. It's worth noting that you can't run vert stabs, no vertical stabilizers on the 1357. Both the other tanks in this can run them. And last but not least, the silver and XP bonuses. So the 1357 gets a 40% silver bonus compared with the Lycan's 20 or 0 on the AMX Chaffee. But the AMX Chaffee is the king of XP because that gets a 50% XP bonus and another 20% crew XP bonus, whereas the other two both get a lowly 25% 25% XP bonus and 0 crew XP bonus. And don't forget also, the AMX Chaffee is a dual crew trainer. So for me, I found it really interesting to look through these stats and sort of make some conclusions based on that. I certainly enjoyed driving the 1357 a lot. It was good fun. I think you're going to be maybe disappointed with the amount of damage you can put out on it. It's going to be difficult to put out, I think it's going to be very hard to put out games of 3-4k plus damage like you can do in a pretty good game in the Lycan or in a really good game in the AMX Chaffee. I think buying it as a tank you're just going to use for fun is a pretty good shout. I think if you just wanted a crew trainer, then hanging on till you can get an AMX Chaffee is going to be a better idea because it's much better at that job. It's a lot cheaper, pretty much half the price, and it's also a dual crew trainer, so it can train American and French crews. So AMX Chaffee certainly wins in terms of pure crew training ability. The 1357, to be fair, is going to be slightly better at getting silver because it has the bonus, but I feel like the Lycan has so much more damage potential that you're probably going to make more silver using a Lycan anyway. But if you just want another fun light tank to use and you don't mind paying a little bit more gold, then seems really good value, then this 1357 seems like a pretty good option. I think I'm going to pick one up. I think the cheapest you can get it, kind of annoyingly, at the end of the month, is going to be from the 24th of November, and it's going to cost you 7,100 gold rather than the base price in Tankopedia of 6,700, and I guess that's because they put a 100% train crew and a garage slot and then whack on an extra 400 gold for you. So hopefully that didn't all bore you too much, and now we can jump in and have a look at the gameplay. Hope you enjoy it.
Alright men, we've got enemies in the area. We either have to take them all out or capture their base. Let's roll!
So here's the replay of the mastery game that I had in the 1357. This was actually on the NA East server for a change, where I don't venture very often, but it was pretty late at night, so I needed to find a slightly bigger player base. You can see that I'm running coffee on mine, so with that and with vents and my crew, that's got my reload down to 14 point something seconds. And I don't think I'm going to talk too much through this one. It's I think it's just enjoyable to watch. I'm going to push over to a position here that is one that I saw saw Turkey Tank doing in one of his videos, and it worked out pretty well for me this time. It's the first time I've really got it to work, but I get really good overwatch from my team. I managed to spot out targets. I think it's a great replay to show quite how good that camo is. There's a lot of situations where I felt like I was surely going to get spotted. I was so close to people, even without bushes, and still didn't get spotted. You'll also see how it maybe handles. You can see the slight sluggishness of it sometimes when turning, compared to maybe the Lycan or the AMX Chaffee, if you're a regular user of those tanks. And you can see my my attempts later in the game to try and get the gun working a little bit, but it's all very spotty early on, with a little bit of shooting towards the end. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please give it a like, and I'll see you next time.